Today, this is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Welcome to our series under the theme, Leadership for Everyone, Everywhere. The subsection we are working on is political leadership. And in the last two episodes, I started on the functions of political leaders. In other words, if they are doing right, what they should be focusing on. I'm doing about 10 of them, and the 5 I covered in the first 2 sessions is first, the provision of a credible national vision. Not a party vision, not your individual vision, but a vision of where the country will be in 20, 30, even 40 years ahead. The second is pulling the best brains in the nation together and having a guiding coalition of ministers, of top executives who will manage the national commons with you to move the country towards its desired goal or vision. The third is building credible, strong institutions that will outlive you. It's easier for you to achieve something within 4 years, even 8 years. But I've been with my wife, set up Ghana Christian International High School for 25 years this year. It seems as if we have just begun. And we are having a perspective plan for the next 25 years, even for a school. And at the top of it is building a team who will outlive me. And most of them hopefully will be there because they are in their 25s to 40. So almost hopefully all of them will be alive over the 25 years and be so tuned to hand over to the next generation. But that can only be possible if I build an institution. It's not one-man show because Stephen Adei is not on earth immortal. I'm immortal by faith in Jesus Christ, but that will be in heaven, not here. We are all in transit at various stages of the transit quarters. The fourth is to create an enabling environment. That's what the laws and the policies, economic, social, and developmental policies are meant to create an environment which will catalyze the best, especially productivity of everyone in the country. And I ended with the 5th one, is the provision of what I called national commons or public goods like transport, electricity, water, and these days, IT infrastructure. If you go to even countries like Egypt, every educational institution has access to internet. And now, even the one they were sharing, which was the table by MTN, I think that they are no longer, are they still, when they saw that it enabled people to have access, they have just stopped it. It should be mandatory and there should be a national policy to make sure that in this day and age, everywhere we have access to internet. When 11 years ago we decided, my wife and I, to extend Ghana Christian International High School to my village, the first thing we did was to go to then Vodafone for them to set up a mast so that in Shiromwasi in our school, they have access in the same internet as anyone in Accra, because you cannot have a quality education in Shiromwasi, even with the best of teachers, without access to internet resources. The national commons or public goods are essential, and it's the political responsibility to do it. Now I will quickly go through the last 5 in this episode. I can't spend as much time. The next has to do with making sure that the national incentive system supports the national vision. For example, if you make politics, in addition to their salary, their corruption, makes it the most attractive profession in Ghana, everyone wants to be a politician. And that is why they are prepared to pay an average of about $1 million to $2 million to be elected as MPs. And I wonder, why will you like to be an MP and spend 2 million cedis to be elected if your salary is less than 40,000 a year, a month? $500,000. And therefore, in the 4 years, at best, you can only recoup your loss, and you won't even, their salaries are not, I don't think, that high. It means that they are buying into a corrupt system, and that's why, whether it is MP's Common Fund or whatever it is. No, that if we want to have an efficient system, we must change our incentive system to support that one. If you want doctors, if you make your incentive system support the doctors, they would be doctors. If you want them to be at war in the villages, I say most of the northern hospitals don't have doctors. Of course, if you pay the same, if you go to Wali Wali, the same as when you are in Kolebu. Of course, I would like Kolebu because I also like to get some locums which are better here than at Wali Wali. And not because Baumia comes from there. He just came to, I was trying to mention a town in the north and Wali Wali came. I love the name Wali Wali. Listen, your national incentive system should conform to where you want to go. If you want to put in, you want engineers, they talk about STEM, people don't like engineering. If you say that if anybody who goes to the university and study a STEM subject has full scholarship, even with an allowance, if you want to go and learn dendrology or history, no, that is not important. You have to pay for yourself. You will see that you have all the engineering students, the doctoral students. Right from the beginning, you ask a child, he says, I want to go and do engineering. The national incentive system is managed by the country, not what they do at wages and salary commission. What they are thinking about is, just a political setup. Let us do things so that we put our national rewards to back where we want to go. For example, if the army could be doing and clear all the way from Accra to Kumasi in 3 months, give them the incentive to do so for the whole country. And don't make sure that a general earns less than a politician. And if you make a general earns half of someone who's a choboy, we are lucky that they are prepared to put their efforts to support us in doing this road. I hope people understand you must have a national wage policy, not what they are doing at this wages and salary commission, fair wages and salary commission. No, this is what we want to as a country, and we are putting our money there. If you don't want it, it's up to you. You can go and start your own. Not that I went to university, we all spent 4 years. You spend 4 years, it's for you to do what you want. And that brings me to the next one, is the National Human Resources Development Policy. That is the 7th. It is most important for us that our political leadership see it as their function to have a national human resources policy. This day and age, it is not so much you are gold. It becomes galamsey and a curse. You are oil. What are we getting from? You develop the brains of your children, and then they will take the country to places. It is the political elite's responsibility to make sure that they put in place a national human resources policy and framework which would produce the type of people who will buttress the development goal towards the vision, the education policy, which is almost like a football. Where it comes and he changes it. Now at least they have stopped, they have settled on 3-year SHS. But in my village, I ran 2 secondary schools. But one of them is a 3-year school, the other, only one, about a quarter of them do it in 3 years. Because the people coming from the public schools in my district, my village, some cannot even spell the name of their village. How can you say that in 3 years he's... Of course, it's not that the child is daft. It's because our national education system, public education, has failed us. The World Bank calls it schooling without learning. However, I don't believe that the children are daft. So when they come, we spend 1 year with them and then shape them. And when they go for the 3-year SHS, we call it access class, they are getting A's. Some even, by God's grace, getting a MasterCard scholarship to come to Ashasi. Most of the children will think that they are daft. They are not daft too. It's we, the parents and the teachers, who are daft, and the government is supporting it because whether they pass or they don't pass, they still pay the teachers. So, when we have a national human resources policy and plan implemented, where government puts its money where its mouth is, we will get the people that we need in an AI era. Because thank God in the AI era, they learn faster and do greater things. So that is the human resources, assuring the development of human resources, including functional, universal basic education, quality science-oriented tertiary education, with the professionals we need for the development. 8, and that is a biggie, is the responsibility of the political leadership and elite to, now watch my lips, to mobilize, oversee, and allocate national, domestic, and external resources with minimal corruption by building effective accountability system that facilitate the creation of wealth. In other words, when they must collect efficiently our taxes and then use it with the minimal leakage through corruption, which is a biggie. We will talk about that when we come to the actual what is happening. But at this moment, I'm dealing with the functions and then making sure that they are used for us to get our money's worth. In 1968, I was coming to the University of Ghana. I couldn't pass, the bus couldn't pass through Nsawam because they were doing the road. We had to go through Koforidia to come to Accra, which was a blessing because they dropped me in front of Legon. Other than that, I didn't know where Legon was. They have been making the Nsawam Road since 1968. And still, it is impassable because our politicians are reneging on this important function, that is, mobilize, oversee, and allocate domestic and external resources with minimal corruption by building effective accountability system that facilitates the creation of wealth. Last but one, it is a core function of the political elite to manage our internal and external security and diplomatic relationships so that we are safe as a people, and for that matter, for any country. In other words, Yes, we have the soldiers, we have the police, and other immigration officers, but the responsibility to make sure that these are equipped, trained, deployed, and are nationally oriented to protect the country, to provide security, and also in our external relationship that we are safe is the responsibility of the political elite. And this is where sometimes some of our leaders, I wonder whether they know what they are about. They go to an international level and go and offend the Americans, the Europeans. Listen, it's absolutely nonsensical for a small country to go and take on these countries when we know, like they did to the Argentinian president, if they want, they can come and catch you in your headquarters. Mahama, if Americans want to come and take him, let me tell you, when they land there, one of their, what they call it, special helicopters and other things, all our soldiers there, it's no match. They will come and take Mahama and go and put him in prison in America if they want to. It doesn't mean that we are not independent. It is the wisdom to be able to know how to exploit international relations to your national advantage. And that is the responsibility of political leadership, to manage our internal security and external relationships for what? Not that you went and gave a long speech in the UN. Castro was the first to give a 2-hour speech. Where is he? His country now is bankrupt. And Nkrumah was the next one. When they go, they say, you go, we will show you. And that is what they do. It doesn't mean that we are going to be a stooge. The Asians lived in the same world. They found a way of exploiting international economic and political systems to their advantage. When they develop, when China is developing and has developed, now when they talk, America listens. When South Korea talks, America listens. When Singapore talks, tiny city-state, the world listens. But it's the responsibility of our leadership. Last but not the least, the political leadership function is to oversee the development of other leaders. In other words, to build a system that allows succession within the NDC party, the MPP party, but also from generation to generation. At this moment, it seems that it's only what we are going to get. Producing succession of quality leadership is the responsibility of current leaders and anyone who wants their nation to develop. And I've seen it being done even in Africa, in Namibia, when I was the head of the UN system and up to now. I see it in Botswana. Succession is actually something which is planned, not so much for individual aggrandizement and corruption, but for stability and national development. In conclusion, let me say 2 things. First of all, in all this, the top, especially the head of state, must model the way. There will be no end to corruption if the head of states are corrupt. When a head of state says that I'm zero tolerance for corruption, and anybody who is going to be in my team is going to be so, soon the system will start being clean from the top. You have to model the way. You have to own the vision. You have to be interested in building institutions. You have to be interested in putting together a guiding coalition and the other functions of leadership. Leaders model the way. Let me conclude by quoting Miles Monroe. He says that whenever a nation has lack of quality, legitimate, and just leaders, national deterioration occurs. Quality leadership is the key to a prosperous and peaceful life and nation. It is obvious that our nations are painfully in need of such leaders. God's answer to all our social, moral, and economic problems is qualified and righteous leaders, unquote. I trust that this rather longish elaboration of the functions of political leadership would set us the platform for us to continue in the next few episodes our sessions on political leadership, because unless we know what is required of political leadership, they cannot even be evaluated. And even those political leaders who want to do right may not know what to do. Shalom, and may the Lord be with you as we continue this. And I trust that that's me and you, will make a difference and support our political leaders to do what is right, because we need them. Thank you.